Hello everyone and welcome to the Kiki London YouTube channel. My name's Amanda and in today's video I'm going to be showing you guys 5 easy geometric nail art designs. I'm seeing these a lot over Instagram, so I thought I'd give a couple of them a go and just show you guys the different ways that you can create them. Now for today's video, I challenged myself to use all 8 colours from the Spring 2020 collection. So this was last year's spring collection and there's some absolutely beautiful colours here. I love all of them and I think this collection is currently on sale for around $39.99. There's quite a few items up on the Kiki London website that are discounted at the moment because they have their back to salon sale on. So do check out the website. As always, there'll be all the links in the description box below. But in this collection you get 8 colours. You can also purchase these individually if you have already got some colours or if there's just a few that you want. But I thought I would go through and show them all first just so you can see them in a little bit of detail. But you will also see me use them throughout the video as well. Dreamcatcher here, by the way, is one of my absolute favourite Kiki London colours. It's kind of like a muted lilac tone. It's got a little bit of a grey dusky feel to it. It's just really pretty. I do actually really love this collection. It's one of my favourites. The next colour is Oh Vanilla, and that's one that you've probably seen me use quite a lot because it's one of my go-to colours. Now, as well as those gel polishes, I'm also going to be using 3 of the Kiki London Pro nail art brushes, and I have already prepped my tips by applying the Kiki London rubber base coat and curing this for 60 seconds so that we can jump straight into the designs. Okay, so for design number 1, I'm coming in with Blue Serenity. This is such a gorgeous spring blue and it covers absolutely beautifully. If I was doing this as a plain coloured nail, I would do 2 coats, but because I'm going to be using it as a base for some nail art, I've just done 1 coat and popped that into cure for 30 seconds. And then I'm going to be top coating this with the no wipe top coat. I opted to use the no wipe top coat because I'm going to be coming in over the top with some chrome powder, and chrome powder requires being applied to a tack free finish. So that's why the no wipe top coat is absolutely perfect for that. So I've cured that in my LED lamp for 30 seconds, and whenever I'm applying chrome I like to leave the top coat to cool for a minute or two. So once I had allowed that to cool, I'm coming in with this beautiful mirror chrome. This gives off a kind of clear blue tint to it. So what I love about these style chromes is you're going to still see the colour you've applied underneath, and then the chrome just gives off a really nice finish. So I'm really rubbing that in using an eyeshadow applicator on my finger, and then I'm just simply going to take a soft brush and just dust off any excess so that there's a nice smooth finish. Now I'm going to come in and seal that chrome in using the no wipe matte top coat. I opted to use the matte top coat because I'm going to do some hand painting over the top of this, and I personally find it a little bit easier painting over a matte surface, but also it really helps when I'm doing videos as well because the matte finish it stops the reflection from the light basically. And how gorgeous does that look matte? I've then popped Pool Party, Dreamcatcher and Spring Fling to begin with on my palette, and I'm taking my stripe liner brush. Now as you'll see, I'm really running that brush through the gel polish to make sure that all of the bristles are evenly coated, but then I pull off some of the excess, and I'm simply going to draw a straight line going from one side to the other, cutting off the corner to create a triangular shape. And I'm doing my best to get the line as neat as possible using the stripe liner brush. So I'm just coming in a couple of times just to really get that nice and sharp, making sure it's nice and neat and that I'm happy with it. I'm then going to swap from the stripe liner brush to the round brush to fill this section in. Now if you don't have the round brush, you can also do this using your gel polish bottle brush, but I find I have a little bit more control of the product when I'm working in a smaller area if I use the round brush head because it is that little bit smaller than your bottle brush. Now I do flash cure these colours as I'm going through the design, just for a quick 10-second flash cure, just to hold them in place, and then I'll cure them for a full 30 seconds once I've finished the first coat of colour for all of the sections. So I'm coming in now and drawing on another triangular shape. And I'm making sure that I leave enough gap between this one and the previous one so that we can still see the Blue Serenity and the chrome. So it kind of gives off a really nice effect. Now I'm using a dream catcher for this one, and again I'm doing exactly the same as before. I'm using the stripe liner brush to create the shape that I want, and then once I've created that shape and I've got it nice and neat, I will swap and use the round brush to fill the section in. And I really found the round brush a lot easier for filling this section in, again because it's that little bit smaller. So I'm picking up a generous amount of polish so that I can evenly coat this, but I do come in and apply a second coat of colour just because we're applying these colours over a darker base. So by adding a second coat of colour, it's going to really make them pop. And that's also why I keep my layers thin, because I do personally always like to apply 2 coats of colour just to make sure I get a nice even coverage. I've now switched to Spring Fling, and I'm just creating another shape down towards the bottom of the nail, trying to make sure that that first strip where we've got the blue Serenity and the chrome between the Pool Party and these 2 colours, I'm trying to make sure that it's all the same width, if that makes sense, just so that it looks nice and even and the whole design flows nicely. Now it can be a little tricky painting on these press-on nail tips because you haven't necessarily got somewhere you can balance your own hand. When I'm working on someone else's hand, I use my little finger just to give my hand a little bit of support on their hand. But when you're working on these press-on tips, it can be a little bit tricky. So you might see my hand go in some strange angles just so I can get the lines as neat as possible. And then again, I'm going to switch to the round brush to fill in that section with the Spring Fling gel polish. And then I was quite unhappy with how neat this line was, so I've taken the Kiki London angled brush and I'm just using that to neaten up and straighten out the line. The angled brush is fab for tidying up any of your lines or any nail art you create because the bristles are quite firm and quite compact, and then obviously they're cut with that angled shape. So what I do is I wipe my angled brush on one of the Kiki London alcohol pads just to dampen it ever so slightly with the alcohol that's on those pads, and then I just use it to remove any excess gel polish and help crisp up that line. And I find that that sometimes works easier than creating a perfect line in the first place. So as you see, I did pop the first coat of colour in for a full 30-second cure, and then I'm coming in and doing a second coat of colour, and I'm applying this exactly the same way we did that first coat of colour. Again, I'm taking that angled brush to clean up any of the lines that I feel could be that little bit neater, and you can see here the way those bristles fan out just makes it effortless when it comes to getting a nice crisp line. Now it is a little bit easier to do that second coat, but I do like to still come in and do it exactly the same as before. So I start off with the stripe liner brush to get the line as neat as possible. Again, here it was a little bit wonky. I wasn't 100% on point when I was doing this set of nails. I was feeling a little bit shaky. So the lines aren't perfect, but that's why I love having the angled brush because, like I said, it's just amazing for cleanup. Once I have applied the second coat of colour to all of the sections, I did only show you guys 2 sections because I didn't want it to be super repetitive. I'm then going to pop this in to cure for 30 seconds, and that is the first design finished. And I loved how well these 4 colours work together. I think this would look fab as a full set or as an accent nail. You could do different shapes, different colors, really play around with it and create some cool designs. I will top coat all of the nails together at the end. So we're going to jump on and do the second nail. Now on the second nail, I'm using O Vanilla as a base color, so I'm going to apply that first coat of color to the entire tip. And for a light creamy color, I feel like O Vanilla gives off such amazing coverage, but I do always like to apply 2 coats just to get a nice even coverage. So I've cured that first coat for 30 seconds, and then I'm coming in and applying the second coat of colour, keeping those coats nice and thin because you don't want to apply them too thick as your gel polish may wrinkle. Now again, because I'm going to be hand painting over the top of this, I like to work on top of a matte base like I said. So I'm coming back in with the Kiki London No White Matte Top Coat, just applying a thin coat of this and curing that for 30 seconds. You want to keep all of your layers of gel polish nice and thin so that you don't end up with a bulky nail. And I absolutely love how O Vanilla looks matte. It's absolutely gorgeous. It's such a must-have colour. Now I've popped a couple more colours down on my palette. So I'm coming in first of all with Blue Serenity. And I'm loading up my brush, but because I'm going to be doing a long straight line, I don't want there to be too much product on there, because I kind of like to map out my line to begin with, just get a rough idea of where I want it to be. I'm not worrying whether it's going to be perfect or not, because I know that I can come in and either clean it up or touch it up by using a little bit more gel polish. So I'm starting off by creating a thin line, but I do want this to be slightly thicker. So I'm going to just map it out, like I said, get that gel polish down on the nail, and then I'm going to come in with more and go back up the nail to make the line a little bit thicker. You could do 2 parallel lines and colour in the centre, it's whichever way you find easiest, and also depends on how thick you want your line to be. Now, as you see, I'm only applying a real little bit of gel polish to my brush at a time. I find this easier than applying a lot and doing one full straight line, but one thing I will say with nail art is play around and again find out what works easiest for you. So I'm just coming back over this line just to make sure that gel polish is applied nice and evenly and that I'm happy with the thickness. Then I'm switching to that angled brush to clean up again, just to get it a little bit more crisper. I wasn't 100% happy with how this line turned out, but I do struggle a little bit when it's drawing a straight line down the nail. It's definitely one of those things that takes a lot of practice. And I do just find it easier to get it on there and then come in and clean up with a little bit of the alcohol from one of the alcohol pads, rather than stressing too much about creating a perfect line. And line work is one of those things, the more you do it, the easier or the better you become. It's definitely one of those things that takes a lot of practice. So don't be disheartened if at first you struggle with it, just keep practicing. Now, I did cure that first coat for 30 seconds and come in and applied a second coat. You could flash cure this and do the rest of your design if you wanted to, but I just wanted to see if I could get that line a little bit neater with my second coat. So that's why I opted to do the second coat before moving on to the rest of the design. And again, I've done that pretty much exactly the same as before. I'm just taking that angled brush to clean up and sweep along it, and look how much neater it made it. Now I'm going to switch and use meadow green. I'm drawing on kind of like this curved rectangular shape for this set of nails. I looked all over Instagram, Pinterest, and just looked at different geometric designs, not necessarily always nail designs. If you just type geometric into Pinterest, for example, it brings up a whole heap of items that will give you so much inspiration. So I kind of just picked ideas from lots of different things as well as other nail art designs. So I've drawn 2 lines slightly curved and then drew another line just to meet them together. And I'm just going to paint in the center of that, and I've stuck to using the stripe liner brush for this, but you could also switch and use the detail brush, but I just found as though because we were working with quite a small area, it was easier to use the stripe liner one. And then when I'm happy with that, I flash cured that for 10 seconds and I'm now switching to Spring Fling. And with Spring Fling on this one, I'm going to kind of draw on a rectangular shape, but I decided not to colour it in and to just keep it as the outline of a shape. So I'm coming in, drawing 2 straight lines parallel to each other, and then like we did with the meadow green, I'm just going to bring them together. And originally I did have a plan of colouring this in, but I quite liked how it looked as just the outline. And I felt like this now gave me a bit of a 90s vibe. It looked really random, but like I said, I've seen a lot of geometric nail designs at the moment and I wanted to give it a go. This would be a fab accent nail in a plain set of nails, or just 1 or 2 nails with designs like this on it. You could use so many different colours, so you could fit it in on whatever season we was in. Now I did cure that first coat of colour for the meadow green and the Spring Fling, so I'm just going to come over them with a second coat of colour just to help them pop. They didn't necessarily need it because where we're working over quite a nude base, the colours did pop, but I just popped on a second coat of colour just so that they were nice and bright. Now, although this is quite a simple looking design to do, these straight lines are actually quite tricky to do. So designs like this are a fab place to start with practicing any kind of line work, because they help train you to do nice crisp lines, learn how to control your brushes, learn how to control the product, and then that comes in handy when you're working and doing any more intricate designs. Now on to the third nail in our video. I'm coming in with Petal Kiss as the base colour, and just look how pigmented this colour is. I probably didn't even need to do 2 coats, to be honest. I love this one because it has that creamy consistency to it. It's got such opaque coverage. This was actually a colour I used a lot in the autumn because it's got that muted tone to it. It's really nice, but again, it's a fab colour from transitioning from winter into spring. Now once I've applied that second coat of colour, I'm going to pop that in to cure for 30 seconds. Now on the previous 2 nails, I popped the matte top coat down. I've not done that on this nail because I wanted to show you guys it is an optional step. You don't necessarily have to do that. It is all about what's finding whatever is easiest for you. So on this one, I'm coming straight over the top of the cured Petal Kiss, and I'm using olive mint and just carving out a line from one side to the other, just cutting off the tip of the nail basically. And then here I'm just showing you guys how I would fill in a section if I didn't have the round nail art brush and I had to use the gel polish bottle brush. So I take a lot of product off of the brush. That way you've got a little bit more control because the gel polish brush is larger than the round nail art brush. So by having minimal product on it, you're able to control where that gel polish goes, and that helps you keep the overall design a lot neater. And then I'm just repeating those steps for the second coat of colour. We're popping olive mint over quite a dark background here, so you would definitely need to come in with 2 coats of colour. And this is more of a simple design compared to the other 2, but I think this would look fab as a full set. It's kind of like a modern twist on a French nail. Just by cutting off that tip, you could do all different shapes. You didn't necessarily have to do a triangular shape. You could even do a V-shape French and then pop the blue line across that like I'm going to do here. So I'm taking Blue Serenity and I'm simply just going to draw a straight line across the tip part of the nail. And it just gives it that really cool, edgy, geometric, abstract vibe. I loved it. I love this now. I thought the colours really clashed, but it looked quite good together. Let me know anyway in the comments below which design was your favourite of the 5. And also do comment below if you have any suggestions of videos that you would like to see. I'm going to have a few videos coming up soon using the Easy Build Up Gel, so let me know if there's anything particular you would like to see done with the Builder Gel, or if there's anything you're struggling with Builder Gel that you would like some help with. Now on to the 4th design. I have already done the O Vanilla as my base. I didn't show you guys this because I did it on the second nail design. And then I've done the base of O Vanilla and then the matte top coat, and here I'm coming in with the rubber base coat, and I'm going to be using this as a foil gel. So I've popped some down on my palette, and then I'm taking the striped liner brush and drawing a square shape. So this can be a little bit tricky drawing with a clear gel polish because it's a little hard to see. So just take your time. That's why I'm using the striped liner brush to begin with, and then I'm going to fill that square in using the round brush. You want to make sure that this is a nice thin layer. Now you do want to make sure that you are covering the entire area where you want your foil to stick with the rubber base coat. Then once that's cured, I'm going to come in and apply my foil. So I'm just using a silver holographic foil for this design, and I'm just going to really press it down onto that rubber base coat, making sure we get all around the edges. And it covered quite well. I'm just coming in and tapping it on here and there. Again, it's a little bit tricky to do this on a press-on tip because it keeps wanting to ping off of the stand. And then I'm going to come in and do exactly the same again with a slightly different shape down towards the tip of the nail. So I went for a slightly more larger rectangle / square shape here. Started off with that striped liner brush and painting on the outline, and then I'm going to come in and fill that in with the round brush. Now I love the rubber base coat for applying foils. I've used it a couple of times and it's a fab alternative if you don't have a foil gel in your kit, especially for working with these metallic foils. I find these are the easiest kind of foils to apply. So if you don't have a foil gel in your kit, I definitely would recommend giving it a go with the rubber base coat. And again, I'm just going to take that foil, and it applied a lot better this time. What I did is I applied it slightly different this time. I really pressed it down, and I'm supporting underneath the tip so I can really apply a nice amount of pressure. And then I'm just coming in and tapping it on any areas where there's not 100% full coverage, because any areas that the foil hasn't stuck to, you're still going to have the sticky base coat there, so you're able to come in with your foil. Now I'm going to outline these squares using Pool Party. So again, using my striped liner brush, and this just, you don't necessarily have to do this, but I kind of felt as though it neatened up the edges of the foil. And again, the colours just worked brilliantly with the silver holographic foil. This was a really simple design to do, but I think this was my favourite out of all 5 because I loved the balance of the nude base and then the foils and then a little bit of clash of colour. Once I've finished applying the Pool Party, I also decided I wanted to add in a second colour. You could leave it like this because it does look quite nice like this, but I flash cured those, and then I'm coming in with Dreamcatcher, and I'm glad I did because it just added a little bit more colour to the nail. And a lot of the geometric patterns and designs I looked at, they were quite colourful and they worked with colours that kind of clashed with each other. So it's just a really fun design to do. So I'm doing exactly the same really as what I did with the Pool Party. I'm just creating that square shape around the original square that we created, trying to keep a gap between the Pool Party and the Dreamcatcher so that you can see the Oh Vanilla through those. And I love the striped liner brush for anything like this. It makes it a hell of a lot easier, especially as a beginner with any hand painted nail art. I'm really trying to push myself out of my comfort zone, and having good quality brushes like these make it a hell of a lot easier. As you can see, when I place that brush down on the nail, I'm letting the brush do a lot of the work. I'm moving my hand ever so slowly with the brush and allowing the bristles to fan out slightly and pull down the nail, and it helps create that crisp straight line without you having to do much movement of your own hand. So you're actually doing minimal work. You're just guiding that brush where to go. Just coming over and neatening it up or thickening it up if needed. I'm coming back in with my trusty angled brush just to neaten up the corner here a little bit where those two lines met. Now that I'm happy with those lines, I'm going to pop this in to cure for 30 seconds. And with this particular design, I decided not to do a second coat of the colour because I felt as though they looked opaque enough. They're both highly pigmented and we're working over a plain nude base. So I just did the one coat of those colours. On to our 5th and final design. I've done 2 coats of Oh Vanilla again, curing each coat for 30 seconds, and then I've applied the matte top coat, and now I'm coming in with Olive Mint. Now on this now, I'm going to do a really simple swirly design. I'm seeing these all the time over Instagram. You see them done in lots of different ways, but they are quite simple. You're just drawing on some swirled lines. So I want that first line to be slightly thicker. This one's going to be in the center, and then I'm going to have 2 more coming off the sides. So I'm just coming in and thickening that up, just taking my time. I didn't want it to look too straight, but I want the lines to look quite neat still, if that makes sense. So that's why I'm just coming in with a little bit more gel polish, making sure that the thickness is even throughout. And then once I'm happy with that, I'm going to flash cure it for 10 seconds. Now flash curing freezes the gel polish in place. So it means that I'm not going to necessarily smudge it if I hit my hand on it, or the gel polish isn't going to bleed and run. So it doesn't fully cure the gel polish, but it allows you to move on to the next step of your nail art design. But you do always need to make sure, if you are flash curing, to still give the nail that full 30-second cure once you've finished your design. Now for the second colour, I took Petal Kiss, and I just followed that first line, the same sort of swirls, keeping with the pattern as best as I could, but I kept the second 2 lines slightly thinner, so your attention is drawn more to the middle line. These nails, or these designs, they also look fab if you do one of the lines with some chrome as well. So I'm just trying to follow the swirls so that they're curve is in the same place as on that first line we drew. It did get a little bit tricky for this one as we was coming off the nail slightly. Now that I've finished those 3 nails, I popped them in to cure for a full 30 seconds, and then I'm going to speed through and do a second coat of colour. So I do my second coat exactly the same as before, flash curing when I feel like I need to. That's one of the things I love, by the way, about the Kiki London lamp. I have the one that you see pictured, so it's their Deluxe lamp, and I love it because it has that 10-second flash cure option on there. So you have 4 options on the Kiki London lamp. You've got 10 seconds, 30 seconds, 60 seconds, and then 99 seconds. The 99 seconds is a low power mode, so it takes you longer to cure at a lower level. And that's fab if you or any of the clients you work on suffer with any heat spikes from products. It's not something I've suffered with myself with any of the Kiki London products, but I know sometimes if you're working on a client who has thin or weak nails and you're using builder gel, you can sometimes get heat spikes. So having that 99-second cure option on the lamp is amazing. Now that all of our designs are cured, this is what they look like. Now, as I said, they're 5 individual designs, not necessarily a full set. So I wanted to have some of these with a glossy top coat and some with the matte top coat. So I'm going to be using the no wipe top coat for the glossy nails and the no wipe matte top coat for the matte nails. So this particular one I decided would look best glossy because of that chrome base. This one I opted to do matte. I love Au Vanilla matte, and because you can see quite a lot of the Au Vanilla on this design, that was why I opted to keep this one matte. This one again I opted to do matte, and I opted to do this one matte because I really wanted to see what the Petal Kiss would look like matte, because I haven't personally ever done that with a matte effect before, and I loved how it turned out. This one I've done with a glossy top coat again because we've got the holographic foils there, so I felt as though you need that glossy look to really make the foils pop. And I opted to do the last one matte as well because I do love a matte nail. Now I really hope you all enjoyed watching this video. I hope you was able to pick up some tips and tricks or some inspiration for when it comes to geometric designs. If you did enjoy the video, then please give it a thumbs up and leave me a comment below. If you're not already subscribed to the Kiki London channel, please do consider hitting subscribe. We have new videos every Friday. Thank you all so much for watching. Take care, lots of love, bye bye.